Good morning. Today is July 12th, 2005. This is Carol Garlow. We're at the home of Sharon Green Huffman to have a oral history with her aunt. Sharon's aunt is Evelyn Green Dorn. She lives in Ann Arbor, but she's from Roscommon. And also here are her daughter, Manchester, not Ann Arbor. Her daughter, Margaret Warden, and Sharon and Arlen Huffman are also here. So we're going to start by asking you to tell us that the tape will belong to the Roscommon Area Historical Society. Can you say that?
This tape will belong to the Roscommon Historical
Good.
Society.
Good. Well, we're off. That's not too hard, is it?
No.
Okay. Evelyn, can you first tell us a little bit about yourself, when you were born?
I was born in Roscommon on September the 18th, 1913. And
Who were your parents?
my parents was Alden J. Green and my mother Mary Ann Green.
What was her maiden name?
Cross.
Cross.
Mhm.
Were they both from Roscommon?
Yes, my dad was born in Roscommon. My mother was born in Charlotte, Michigan.
Oh, okay. So they were both from Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know how, what kind of work did your father do?
Well, you mean from the beginning, or?
Well, how did he happen to come to Roscommon? Did he come here because of work, or do you?
He didn't come. He was
Oh,
born
he was
here.
born here. So
Yeah.
then his parents had come to Roscommon.
Yes, his mother was. His mother. She was born in a place called Riga, Michigan. I don't know. It's R-I-G-A.
Oh.
I see it was in the big Bible.
Oh, okay.
And I don't know where it is.
Mm-hmm.
I never heard tell of it.
Probably a
before.
ghost town by now.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. But my dad was born. My dad was born in what they call South Branch.
Oh, okay.
And then, well, he had a stepfather. My grandmother's husband, when she was pregnant for my father, her husband left her and went out west at the time of the gold rush.
Oh, no kidding.
Mm-hmm. And he never came back.
Huh.
So when my dad was born, when he was 2 years old, then she married Grandpa Prince.
Oh,
he was
okay.
from Wharton, Ontario.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
Mm-hmm. Very lovely man. Very lovely.
And what was his name?
Zoel Prince.
So his last name was Prince.
Prince.
So then, is he the one that came to Roscommon then?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And what did he do here? Do you know? Was he a
Well, they
lumberman?
all worked in the lumber camps.
Did
Yeah. And I think Grandma cooked for a lot of the men
Oh.
because they lived in camps. And then, of course, when my dad grew up, we cut down trees and put them in the river and take them down the river, of course, to be fixed.
Milled.
Yeah. And they use these cant hooks.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know what a cant hook was?
I've seen one. I don't know how to use it though.
My dad had a little one to fit him.
Oh.
And
You mean he was a small man?
yeah, well, I meant the cant hook itself. It had a long handle on it because they'd be walking on these logs as they were going,
Oh my gosh.
down the river. and they would take care of the logs with this can. It went right around a tree and helped it along down the water. So that went on for years, and then after a while, why?
So when you were growing up, was your father still doing some of that work?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, not too long, because after a while, when my dad went to work for the county, he drove one of those trucks on the road,
Okay.
and then he worked for the state, and he retired from the state.
So Grandpa Prince,
Mm-hmm.
he worked in the lumber company, lumber also.
That's all there was.
Uh-huh. Did he work till he was an older man doing the lumber work?
No, Grandpa finally, in later years, went to work for Andrew Price,
Oh.
and for the one and only store we had here, grocery store. And Mr. Price gave him, first he had a horse and a wagon in the summertime and sleighs in the wintertime. The kids would all fall, the people would call in and ask for groceries. And then Mr. Price would make out the order and give it to my granddad. My granddad would deliver it.
Oh, wow.
And in the wintertime, a lot of kids, they couldn't do it in the wagon because the wagon was too tall. But the kids would run after him and run and jump on the wagon, on the sled,
Uh-huh.
because that was just low.
That'd be fun.
He told them not to, but because it was kind of dangerous, but anyway.
For heaven's sake.
But he worked for Andrew Price for years and years. Well, he didn't do anything after he quit working for Mr. Price.
So did both of your grandma and grandpa Prince, did they both die here then? Were they living here when they died?
Yeah, they both, yeah. They're
Wow.
both buried here.
Uh-huh.
And
then your parents also? Are they buried here
yes,
too?
they're buried here. Mm-hmm.
So what did, your father retired from the state, you said?
Mm-hmm.
So he
Yeah.
had a long career then?
That's right.
No? County? County Road Commissioner? Well, they must have helped even build the roads then. Because we didn't have many roads.
Well, he in the wintertime, he always had a snowplow.
Oh, okay,
And that was, at that time, we had really had the snow.
yeah.
It was high. And, yeah.
Everyone says they remember so much more snow in the old days
Yes,
than what we have
yes.
now.
Oh, absolutely.
I wonder why that is.
At, on Halloween, we used to, when I was a kid, we had Halloween parties in the old Geister house behind Ike Shire's. It's where, in that vicinity where, what was Maxine's daughter?
Cross the tracks, was it, from us, where we grew up?
No, what was
Georgia, Dawn.
Georgia? No, not Georgia. The
Dawn.
youngest one. Dawn.
Dawn.
Where Dawn lives. That house wasn't there at all.
Oh, okay.
It was a big greenhouse, and it was Geister's.
Uh-huh.
And they moved out of it, and it was vacant. And I can remember this Halloween party we had over there, and we waded snow right up to our knees at Halloween time.
No kidding.
Mm-hmm. Oh, we had much more snow then than we
Isn't
have
that
now.
something? Huh. So, I'm gonna go back a little bit more than your Grandma Prince, then after she married Grandpa Prince, did she have more children? Do you have
Oh, no.
a bunch of aunts and
No.
uncles? No. So your father was her only
That's right.
child.
Mhm.
So you had a small family, really.
Very, very small.
Yeah,
We don't have much.
yeah.
Mm-mm.
Okay, and then your parents had you and your brother. Did they just have the two children?
That was it.
Okay, well, tell us a little bit about your brother, would be Sharon's dad.
My brother, he was 2 years older than I, and what did I say about it? Very nice fellow.
He didn't drive you nuts when you were growing up? My brother did. Oh,
Oh,
dear.
we'd have our squabbles, but
Uh-huh.
it didn't mean anything.
Now, where did you live when you grew up? In which house?
My brother was born first, of course, and he was born in the Benton house.
Okay.
Holland House.
And then we moved there across the street to a yellow house. It was a house that was rented, you know.
Was that next to Rutledge's then? The one that was
Yeah, it
Rutledge's?
was right behind McCready's store.
Okay, so that one's gone now also.
Yes, I see. It's
Okay.
And then that's where I was born.
Oh, okay.
And then I don't know just how old I was when we moved down where we lived.
The rest of your grown-up years, which was
Yeah.
where, still on Fifth Street? Okay.
The house is tore down now.
Oh,
It was the second one across the creek, or the third one across the creek on the left-hand side. And
oh,
they
okay.
recently tore that down.
Yeah, not too long ago.
And May Murphy lived right next door
Oh, okay.
there in the next house.
Okay. So, what's your favorite memory from growing up in Roscommon? Or what are some of the things that you did as a kid? Were you a river swimmer? I hear about the swimming hole
No,
a lot.
but I skied a lot.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I love to ski.
Did you?
Oh, yeah. And I think that was my favorite.
So did you go up to, when you skied, where did you ski?
Well, it was just more, just around town and just out in the
Oh,
country.
really?
Mhm.
So you were doing cross-country ski?
More or less.
Uh-huh. Now, was the Pioneer Hill a place where you went at that
That was
time?
later years.
That was later.
Yeah.
That was, so you had to make your own ski trails.
Mhm.
Well, that was neat.
But Catherine Price, did you ever see Catherine?
No, but I understand, does she live in West Branch or something? Is she still alive?
She is, but I
I'd like
wish
to
I could
find
get
her.
a hold of her. I don't know.
I do too. We've tried to, we'd like to interview her also.
Oh, yeah.
What's her last name now?
Vogan. She married Robert Vogan from West Branch. And I always heard she was on the eastern side of the state, but where, I don't know.
Well, some people who have come to visit us at the Galmore House and at the Richardson School have either talked about her or asked about her, and we've not caught up to her yet. If we do, we'll let you know.
All right. I just love to know where Catherine is.
Yeah.
And we were together an awful lot. We skied together. And,
Oh, did you?
mhm.
And so you were close right in town, so you just walked to school.
Oh, yeah.
And where, so you were born in, where, then you started school. Where did you start school, in which building?
It was the one that they moved across the street.
Okay, and it was,
I don't know what it's there
Okay.
now. They moved it from there across.
and now it's Masonic Temple.
Oh, is that it?
Yeah.
Say, where did you, is that gone? That church that was there before they moved it?
Yes, and most people that I talk to say they think they just took it down. They don't think it burned. They think it was just torn down before they moved the school building over there.
Because that was built the year my dad was born, 1880.
No,
That building was?
The church,
Oh, the church was.
the church,
For
1880.
heaven's sakes.
Mm-hmm.
Now, did your family attend church in Roscommon?
Yeah,
Which church did they
the
attend?
Congregational.
Congregational. That's an old congregation.
Mm-hmm.
Been established a long time. So when you went there, was it the little stone church? Still?
It was a little what?
Stone? Made out of stones?
No,
No?
it was just a board.
Oh, just, okay.
Yeah, I have all those pictures of things like that.
Do
But,
you?
Mhm.
Well, don't get rid of them, save them. We like to make copies if you are willing to share them.
Mhm.
You know, we don't need the originals, but if you let us borrow them, we will make copies, give them back to you.
Yeah, it was
Sometime.
just, I can see the seats now. You just couldn't hardly stand it. They were just boards, come down
Oh.
the back. And,
Oh, painful long
yeah.
sermons. Oh, my goodness. Did you like school?
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember who some of your teachers were?
Iva Price. Well, this one. Oh, my first one was Miss Lamfier. What was the name of that place she was from? I didn't think I'd ever forget that. And Miss Hankey. And
So let's see.
That was the early years.
Yeah, that was the early
Yeah.
1920s, 1919.
you're not going to ask me any questions about my mother's side, huh?
Yep, I want to know
Oh.
about your mother. Tell me about your mother.
My mother, my best friend. She was born in Charlotte, Michigan. And she's in a big family, big family. And
You know how she met your dad?
yeah, she well, she was married before, first to Bert Pearsall, and this was in Johannesburg. He was a very lovely man, and he had what they called then inflammatory rheumatism,
Oh,
and he knew that he didn't have too much time to live, and but he at that time, well, probably there wasn't anybody to take care of him. And she said, yes, she says, we'll get married anyway, because she says it won't make any difference. I'll take care of you no matter what. So they lived together about 2 years, and he died. Well, then she met, I think that was about in 19, see, I have that written down. No, AJ was born in 1911, 12, 13.
so she didn't have any children with Mr. Pierce?
Oh, no, no. And then, it was a few years later, not too many, she met my dad. And he was sort of a relative, you see. Bert Pearsall's father was my grandma's brother.
Oh, okay.
And so it was a little short.
The two men were kind of related,
Yeah.
distant
Yeah.
cousins. Mhm.
And
And so they were married and had the two of you. So what else do you remember about your mother? You wanted to talk about her. So was she happy in Roscommon?
oh, sure.
Yeah, she liked it here.
But I had a lot of happy memories. She was the backbone of the family,
Mm-hmm.
and I really missed her. But I had her for a long time.
Mm-hmm. It's okay. What did your mother do? Did she work out of the home?
She, yeah, she went with Dr. Cornelia on confinement cases.
Oh,
Yeah, the ladies she brought in all these kids that's around here. They're
No
not kids
kidding.
now.
right. We can still call them kids. We
And-
call each other kids all the time. So she got called all hours
In
of
the night,
and everything.
I used to get so mad because I was just young, and it seems like these babies always came at night, and the rap would come on the door, Mrs. Green, Mrs. Green, and she'd have to get up and go.
Mhm.
So that's what she'd done for a long, long time.
Really?
Hmm.
Wow. That was interesting. I wonder if the pay was good. Was she paid well for that, do you know?
I don't know. In the wintertime, like we were talking about the snow, so when she had to go someplace, Ori Billman had a snowmobile.
Really?
No,
Oh, he isn't here, is he?
no.
He just walked out.
And he would drive up with a snowmobile and pick my mother up and take
They
her.
didn't have snowmobiles back then, Evelyn.
Why?
They didn't have snowmobiles back then.
Honey, this isn't a snowmobile like you're thinking of.
Oh.
Oh,
What
no,
were the
no,
snowmobiles
oh,
like then?
no.
Oh, okay.
Oh, no, Sharon.
Okay,
Come on now, you weren't even born yet.
yeah.
They wasn't even thinking of you at that time. No, I know what she's thinking of, but
Yeah.
no, this was like a car.
Oh,
This was like a car. You get in and it had the big, runner?
like a ski thing? you
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Well,
And,
for heaven's sake.
yes, and,
So did he picked up Dr. Cornelia and your mother and off you'd go? Off they
Mhm.
go to deliver a baby?
that's right,
Isn't that something?
that's right.
Huh. Well, for heaven's sakes. So everyone knew when the babies came.
Hmm. Oh, yeah, oh,
Really got
yeah.
Called out. Now, when did you said there was a rap on the door, so how long before your family had a telephone? Do you remember that?
Remember the,
Were you a teenager or so when they got a telephone, or do you remember that at all?
I don't remember.
I can remember going to Grandma's and she had that black phone.
The one sat on the table?
Mhm.
And you
Yeah.
cranked it?
When I was a little girl. On the wall.
Well, you dial like this, those numbers.
What year were you born, Sharon?
39.
39.
No, our first one hung on the wall.
Oh, did it?
Yeah. One of those wooden. And you crank the side of it. Yeah.
Do you remember when your family when electricity first came into your house on Fifth Street?
I couldn't
Was
tell
that
you
a big deal?
Yeah. I was probably about 7 years old. We had one string, hanging down, and
For the light?
yeah.
Mm-hmm. So that would have been around 1920 then. Mm-hmm. So you had refrigeration. When electricity came, I always wondered what did a family first convert to electricity? Probably the ice box would have been the
That was
main
what
thing.
we had, ice box.
Yeah.
They cut ice on Higgins Lake and put it in storage and sawdust, and then as you need it, they'd bring it into the house.
Mm-hmm. So was the electric refrigerator one of the first appliances that your family would have?
Yeah, I think so. I think that was before we had the stove, got the electric stove. We had one of those big ranges, and we used that. Oh, those are nice. And then after a while, we got the electric stove.
Mm-hmm. But you had, of course, you were cooking with wood before that. Did you have indoor plumbing?
Not well. I don't know what. Let me see. How old would I have been?
It's hard to imagine all that for me. You know, outhouses and ice boxes.
Yeah,
and all
you
that.
talk to some of even my grandchildren, or my great-grandchildren. Well, I guess I haven't talked to the great-grandchildren about it, but they can't even fathom what I tell them,
No, I know it.
They just don't. I don't know. Maybe I was about 7 years old.
When the indoor
8
plumbing
years
came.
old, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But
What do you remember about Mrs. Benton? Then was she your neighbor,
Mrs. Who?
Benton?
Mrs. Benton. I didn't know her because I wasn't born yet when AJ was born there. Their house was kind of in a apartment on one side, and my mom and dad and my brother, they lived there for a little while, and then they moved across the street where I was born.
But then you would have been across the street neighbor when you were growing up,
Well,
somewhat. I just wondered if you remembered her at all.
no, I don't even remember. No, we were quite young when we moved again down where we lived.
So did you graduate from high school in Roscommon?
No,
No? How far did you go?
no. I quit in the second half of the 11th grade
Did you? Mm-hmm. And why did you quit? What did you want to do?
because I didn't want to go
You were
anymore.
tired of it, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you have a job?
Well, I soon found work, yeah.
What did you do?
Well, I had different jobs. I worked for a couple, I don't know whether you, out at Higgins Lake,
Oh.
Mr. and Mrs. Fred Baldwin.
Oh, okay.
And,
In that big, beautiful house?
yeah,
All right, girl.
it was gorgeous.
It still is.
Oh. And
What were they like?
lovely.
Where were they from?
Well, they could have stayed there all winter. It was a home, but they never did. They always went to Daytona Beach, and then they'd stop and pick me up on the way back, and I'd be with them all summer.
No kidding.
And but I didn't do any work. She just wanted me to drive her around.
Wow.
She had a car, a Chevrolet, and he had a Packard.
Wow. What
and-
kind of work had he done?
They were two people from Flint, and I don't really know what he did.
Oh.
In the basement, we had, there was a bank torn down in Flint, and the great big safe, he bought that and had it moved to Higgins Lake in the basement. And that was in the basement, this
No
great big
kidding. Like a
safe.
vault, huh?
A vault, yeah,
Wow. So you just were her companion?
that's
kind of.
right.
Well, what a nice life that was, Evelyn.
Mm-hmm.
Can't beat that.
No,
How many years did you do that? Quite a few?
oh yeah,
Really?
and that was more fun than anything.
Well, I
But
guess.
I loved to be at the lake.
Why, sure. Did they have children?
No,
No. So.
they both had been married before.
Oh. Well, for heaven's sake.
Yeah, they were from Flint. I remember one time, Mrs. Baldwin, she said, Evelyn, we're going to have company today. And she said different things and it was May Nash from California, and he was the head of the Nash motor car. And she said, they'll be here this afternoon. And, everything was fixed, just perfect. And Mr. Baldwin went out to open the big iron fence that went around the place. And she drove up in her big car, and she had her chauffeur was driving, and he had his wife. And his wife worked. They both worked for me, May Nash. And boy, this day was something. You should have seen them when they got out of that great big limousine. They drove through it was a circle driveway,
Yeah.
and they parked right in front of the house. And whatever the woman done for her, she gets out of the car. Oh, the chauffeur gets out first, this woman's husband. And then he goes around and opens the door for me. Nash. She comes in with one of those little Pomeranian dogs up in her arms. And Mr. Baldwin was there, and he was standing there close to me, and he says, I was hoping to God she'd leave that dog to home. But, oh, he hated that dog.
Really?
Well, she put down, when they ate, they had a lovely formal dining room there, and when they ate, she put down one of Mrs. Baldwin's linen napkins for that dog to eat. Mr. Baldwin could have kicked that dog. But they got out of the car, and I'm telling you, you'd have thought that they changed their clothes about a half a mile away. There were,
Not a
his
wrinkle?
shirt, there wasn't a wrinkle. Oh, he was dressed just, and it was hot in the summertime, but he had all white on. And there wasn't I'll never forget the way those two looked. And she had a pink silk dress on. And they came where I was, and they said, could we have a drink of cold water? And I said, well, sure. And I was with them quite a lot that day because May was with Mrs. Baldwin,
Uh-huh.
and I'll
How
never forget
fun.
that.
Yeah, how fun. Well, she must have had a cook then.
Well,
Mrs.
this lady
Baldwin?
might have been.
No, I mean Mrs. Baldwin. Did she do her
No,
own
she
cooking?
didn't. No, no, it was just her and I that.
You did the cooking, the
She-
two of you together.
She done a lot. She told me one time, she says, Evelyn, you should know about the time that, she called him Daddy Baldwin. Daddy Baldwin and I were married. She said they were going to have company, and this is when they lived in Flint. And she said, I wanted everything, I wanted everything so nice. And she said I was going to have chicken. So she fixed the chicken, and Mr. Baldwin sat at the end of the table, and he always done the carving of anything.
Oh.
And, she says, I was so embarrassed. She left the crop in the chicken.
Oh.
Yeah. And she said, and they just passed it off, but she said it was terrible, she says.
She was mortified, huh?
Oh, well, you can,
Well, she didn't do it again, I'm sure.
no, that was her first and last.
Yeah, bless her heart. Well, that's neat.
Oh, that was fun living there.
Well, sure, you lived there all summer. Then did you go back home for the winter?
Yeah.
too?
Mhm.
Yeah. Then what did you do in the wintertime then? Did you take another job before you were married?
Oh, in the wintertime. I don't know, probably not. I don't know.
Don't remember? Okay. Yeah, when did you work for Sharon said she thought you worked for the phone company at one point.
Mm-hmm.
Was that before you were married?
No. When was that? Boy,
You worked for the telephone company?
yeah.
Remember you were talking about who you worked with?
It was a little log cabin where Mr. Price's store was. So, what was there? We went by it yesterday.
St. Vincent de Paul is there.
Yeah, but
Oh.
you're way down. Back this way on the corner.
Oh, Dan Fischel, the old AMP store.
No, now you're across the street.
No, it was where St. Vincent, right next to the Herald. The
Okay.
telephone, the log.
Yeah.
Gee,
Right-
I don't remember any
St.
pictures
Vincent
of
de Paul,
that.
right next to
There
the
was a-
Herald News office.
There was a
right on
log
the corner.
cabin there?
There was a log cabin there.
Oh, yeah, that was a lot of years ago.
Do you
That
have
was a
any
lot-
pictures
was-
of that, Evelyn? Do you have any
What?
pictures of that building? Of the telephone office, a log cabin?
Mm-hmm.
We sure would like one of those.
Okay, I was standing out in front. Well, Margaret was born. Margaret was in the picture.
I remember that.
Oh, okay.
It's right on that corner,
And what year were you born?
38.
38. Okay.
I remember.
It was,
Well, because that's the corner that had been the Opera House. The Opera House burned down.
that's right.
in
That's right. That's where
29,
Price's store was. The Opera House was upstairs.
And Price was underneath.
Mm-hmm. And that's the corner.
So after the Opera House burned down, they built a log cabin there?
Well, I'm
You
not
think?
so sure it was that quick.
Or something like, well, it must have been
But
the
it was,
Opera House burned in 29.
29, and you were born 38, but you stood there, you must have been about 3 or 4 years old,
Well, I
weren't you?
remember you working there, plugging on all those. It was a-
Yeah.
So you worked there after you were married and had children,
Yeah,
had your
yeah.
family?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay.
My sister worked
Who all worked there with you? Do you remember?
There was Elma Doyle. I forgot her, but Margaret remembered her name. And Arlen said that, but I didn't know her.
there. My sister had worked there.
Yeah.
That was in the early 40s.
Early 40s.
Well,
Oh,
when
that
they
was a lot later then. Oh, yeah, this was, yeah.
No, she was born in
No, I was
38,
born
that
in
was right.
38.
What's your sister's name, Arlen?
Arbutus.
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 Arbutus, like the flower?
Yeah,
Oh,
she's
okay.
a flower.
She was a flower.
And Marge Price, Catherine's sister.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
So like, how many of you worked at a time?
I think there was,
Like 2 or 3 of you would be working on,
3 or 4. Seats.
See, then did you work just during the day?
Mhm.
Did you have to work nights sometimes too? Just daytime?
Mhm.
Very interesting. We learned the other day from an advertising calendar from May Malone's Real Estate
Yeah.
that our telephone exchange was Crestwood. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I guess so. I forgot,
That's
but
why
yeah.
all of our numbers start with 27, because that was CR.
Oh, yeah.
The word was Crestwood.
Do you know where all the telephone buildings were in
No,
Roscommon?
no, you can tell me that.
Um, you know, it was Helen Hammond. Did you know about when Patty owned the drugstore? All right.
Before Sherman.
A what?
Before Mr. Grieve, before Mr. Sherman. Patty was
Oh, heavens, yes.
earlier.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. His sister was Helen Hammond, and the little tiny telephone office was right between where the Ford garage used to be, on that corner.
Impact Office Products now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, right next, she had this little tiny, and in the summertime it was hot, and she'd have the door open, and she had kind of a funny voice, and you could hear her all over Roscommon. Hello, Central. Hello, Central. You always knew when she got a call. Hello, Central. Well, that was Helen Hammond. But then the next one, after that, why, there was a little one again, stuck in between Harry McConkey's store and
And Chase's?
what?
Chase? And the Chase store?
You're
Between
saying
McConkey's and Chase's?
Chase's.
Or the other way? Wasn't that? am I
Spence
saying-
Chase. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah,
I'm
it was
saying
right in
wrong.
there.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, this little building. That was the next one. And that's all I know about telephone companies.
So that was before it was where the Opera House had been.
Oh, yeah.
So it moved, the telephone office moved
That's right.
quite a bit.
Kind of like the post office.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know that post office, I was thinking about that the other night. What was there? You're talking about now the old post office. All right,
By the railroad track.
by the railroad track. What was there before the post office?
Oh. I don't know. And we have some pictures from way in the 1880s, and there was a building there.
Well, there used to be a pool
Pool hall?
Yeah, and I wondered if that was, but then I thought, well, if that's the case, then where was the post office? Was the post office any other place back there?
I don't know.
Oh,
I don't know. I know that was one of the early places, the one by the railroad tracks.
yes, yeah,
Before it went to
yeah.
the brick next to Sherman's drugstore, and then where it is now.
Sherman's drugstore.
Well, the new Sherman's drugstore
Where's that?
on it was on Lake Street. It's now our superintendent of schools office. But, you know, Andy Sherman started out in Patty's building,
Mm-hmm.
and then I think in the 1950s they built the brick one right down Lake Street, across from where the bank is.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And
Yeah,
then
you did. Because one time, I remember one time you and a friend of yours drove up here, and you were in there having lunch at the lunch counter. Because I was working for Dick Bradley.
Are you talking to me?
And yes, I was working for Dick Bradley, and I came down there. And that's when you were still driving. And you had that little car of yours, that,
Little American Motors one.
yep, whatever that little car was, that kind of gray-blue color, yep. And you drove up here with a friend of yours. And you were sitting at the counter in that drugstore having lunch.
Where was the drugstore?
right where she said, do you remember where the village shop was at?
That Esther McCready.
Yeah.
Esther McCready's right next to
Eggs.
that.
A drugstore in there?
Yeah.
That was built in the sixties,
That was built in the sixties,
early
but
sixties, not seventies.
you
See,
were,
I don't remember that.
yeah, you were gone from here by then.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you had come back.
Uh-huh.
And the post office was on the corner of Lake and Fourth, that little brick building, little tan brick, still there. I mean, it's not a post office anymore, but the building is still
Cal
there.
Shepherd's
Oh.
house used to be in there. Remember Cal Shepherd's house?
Yeah, behind,
And then there was another house next to that, right on the corner.
I know who, Ray Matheson.
Okay, that's where the post office sat.
Oh, my God. Well, see, I don't remember that. No, sir.
Well, you'd
I
been
laid
gone.
awake thinking, where in the world was the first post office?
Yeah.
No, sir. I forgot all about that. Yeah? That's right.
Okay, so you, then when did you leave Roscommon? How old were you when you moved away from here?
Well, I went to go to work.
Where did you go?
Well, see, Margaret, well, that, when I went to go to work, Margaret it was, she graduated from West Branch. We lived there. And she went to Ann Arbor. She worked for the university.
Oh.
And
Before that.
Yeah, before.
and I don't know, someplace in there I was divorced. And I thought, well, I had to work. So I thought I'd go down where Margaret was, in Ann Arbor.
She's jumping ahead.
I went down there and never came back.
Oh, okay.
No, Mom. you
Well,
worked
tell me-
in Sa- You worked in Saginaw.
Kroger.
Saginaw.
Yeah,
That's right.
Kroger's, yeah.
That's right, Saginaw.
Oh,
I worked for
probably met
Kroger's
you-
for years.
That's where I lived. I probably knew you in Saginaw, but I didn't know that I knew you. We used to
Where'd
go
you
to
live in
Kroger
Saginaw?
store. On South Outer Drive in Holland.
Holland. Oh, yeah. I lived on
Van Buren.
Van Buren,
Oh, okay.
off
On the
Michigan Ave.
West side,
Mm.
yeah. Well, anyway, you were married in Roscommon then? Were you married here?
No, I was married in Grayling.
Okay, but then you lived here. Margaret was born in Roscommon?
Yeah,
And how many children do you have?
that's it.
She was it. We
Yep.
got a jewel, so you stuck with that one. Well, that's nice. That's nice.
Then I went to
So let's
Ann
go-
Arbor.
Okay, let's go back to your brother. Like, what else can you tell me about AJ?
AJ. He was a lovely brother.
Did he finish school here
Yeah, he graduated from
from Roscommon?
that old school building.
Mm-hmm.
And
So what year did he graduate? We might as well get his
1930.
history. 1930? So before they had the new building.
It
Was he the
old-
last class out
It
of
was
the old?
the old Masonic building sitting
Yeah.
where the craft center is.
Right.
there.
Was he the
Yeah.
last class to graduate from there?
I don't
Or was
know
there one
that.
more? Because the new one opened in 31.
I'm gonna say he was probably the last son.
Yeah. Okay. And then he married, what's your mother's name, Sharon?
Mary,
Lamb. Her
Lamb.
maiden
Lamb.
name was Lamb.
L-A-M-B?
And I don't know how they met. In
Okay.
Detroit.
AJ went to Detroit to work. He worked for the Prudential Insurance Company.
Oh.
And he had a cousin that lived there. And the two of them went out, found these two girls.
Oh. mhm.
And
She was picked up.
he married Mary. And
Mhm. But then they came
lived-
back to Roscommon.
no, they lived in Detroit. And see, she had been married before and had a little boy, Gene.
Okay.
I think Gene was 4 years old when they were married. And they lived in Detroit for a while. And, they didn't come back to Roscommon until he got his notice to go on the service.
Oh.
He was in the
okay.
Second World War.
No, that's
Yeah.
not quite right, Evelyn.
No?
No. I was 2 years old when he moved Mom and us kids back here.
Okay.
How many
and then-
kids when you say us kids?
Gene,
Jean and four.
Jack, Kenny, and myself.
Oh,
So there
okay.
was 4 of us.
Okay.
I have a half brother, which is the oldest.
Jean. mhm.
And I was 2 years old, but from there, I can't tell you, because he was working for Prudential when he went into the service
That's right.
But still living in Detroit then.
and came back on weekends, I think. And
Oh, okay.
Mom and us kids were up here, living next door to my grandma, in Grandma's house.
AJ moved his family here to Roscommon when he got notice,
Oh, maybe that was it.
yeah, that he had to go in the service. And he didn't want his family down there in Detroit living.
Right. I
So
guess
that
that's
was
right.
like 40, what year were you born?
39.
So
I
41
moved
or
at
so.
41, yeah, I think you're right there, yeah.
Yeah. He was
'Cause
killed
he
in
didn't go
44.
overseas, 'cause he didn't go overseas right away.
Oh,
Huh?
okay.
And he didn't go overseas right away after he went in,
No, but it wasn't long.
yeah. And
He
then,
didn't have much training at all. It was when they were taking him with families.
Oh, yeah.
And he was one of the last ones to.
So he was, you said he received notice, so he was drafted,
Yeah,
essentially. Isn't
yeah.
that
Oh, it
something?
got so bad that they took him with families. Here he had 4.
Gee.
And, but didn't make any difference. He had to go.
And so then your mother's, with the 4 children, stayed here then?
yeah, we stayed here. And I don't know who, somebody told me this, I was thinking it was my mother, that my dad come home on furlough just before he went overseas.
He did.
And he took me my first day to kindergarten, and that's the last
Oh.
time I saw him.
Yeah, isn't that
And then
something?
he went overseas, and then he was killed in January of 1945. I started school in September of 44.
Oh, okay. Boy, that had to be hard, huh, for all the families.
Yeah, it was.
And where were you living by then, in 45 when he died?
I think I was in Saginaw
Still in
because,
Saginaw.
no, that was the time that,
I was not.
dear, I don't know. I don't, I think it was Saginaw. I worked for Kroger's for a long time.
Did you?
And then when later years, I came to West Branch, I worked for A&P for a long time.
Oh, did you? I probably saw you there too.
Yep,
That was
for
good.
Dick Hewson.
Yeah, yeah. That was a nice store. I always liked to stop there. I worked in West Branch where Sharon did,
Where?
at the hospital where Sharon did.
Oh, uh-huh.
We used to carpool.
We lived across from the old hospital
Did you really?
on East Houghton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I probably went past your house
Oh, yeah.
5 million times.
Yeah.
Well, that's neat. That's neat. What, I'm trying to think what other memories you might have about Roscommon. You talked about your playmate, Helen Price,
Catherine.
Catherine. Okay. Who are some of the other kids that you would have chummed around with in high school and stuff? Was she still your friend in high school?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll tell you right now, there wasn't many. Kids were scarce. There was Bernice Golnick.
Oh, okay.
She married Ernie Bertle.
Okay. Remember
She
that
lived out in
name.
the country there.
Did you go to the theater much when you were high school age?
What
Was the
theater?
Was there a theater then?
Uh-uh.
No, that started later, huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you missed all those movies that are probably no good anyway.
No.
Oh, my goodness.
There was a Catherine Gardner. She went to school. She came from Detroit, but she was one of the Gardner girls. She went to school for a while.
Now, were there Cornelias kind of at your backyard then?
Cornelius.
Yeah.
Now, which Cornelia?
There were the 3 boys. I don't know. They were
Okay,
older
that
than
was
you,
Bill. Bill Cornelius. He was a brother to Dr. Cornelia. He was the last house on the other street over. I don't know how to tell you that.
though. On Main Street.
No,
No. The other way?
off of
Behind the
Main.
railroad track,
Yeah,
right?
across the railroad track.
Are you talking behind the railroad track? We lived right on the railroad track growing up.
They're on the other side of the
and
railroad.
they're on
track.
the other side of the railroad track.
Yeah, but way down the other end of town. Way down, they were the last house,
Going out towards Grayling, you mean?
no, the
Go out
other
towards St.
direction.
Helen.
And there was Jim Cornelia and Art Cornelia.
The old Cornelia house there that Bill lives in now.
And there was another one, I can't remember his name. Jim used to work in the post office. There was a lot of different ones that worked in the post office. There was a Osling, Robert Osling, and a Bressingham woman at different times. But Cornelius, yeah. What did you ask about Cornelius?
Well, I thought your backyards went together.
Not
kinda.
exactly, because they lived way up from us.
Oh, okay, they were farther down.
Yeah, across from Cornelius was a black family, lovely black family, Millers.
Oh,
He had a garage down the other end of town.
oh.
And she was a dressmaker.
For auto repair, he had an auto repair place? You mean?
It sort of could have been.
Yeah.
Mhm.
How long did they live here, I wonder?
I remember when I was a
Yeah.
kid, that colored family that lived back.
Across the railroad track.
It,
Yeah.
our house was right across the creek, and there was the railroad track, and Cornelia was just, probably south of us, you'd say,
Yeah.
towards St. Helen,
Yeah.
a little bit, and across the railroad track there.
Right.
And then that family was just right across the street in there.
But there were houses in between there.
Yes.
Jess Green had a house in there, next to Cornelius. And
Yes, it's the one that David had, that Treats lived in before they moved on the other side of Cornelia.
and then there was a creek that went through there, wasn't there?
Yep,
And then the fire, or maybe not.
yep,
And
yep,
up on the corner was Wallace's house.
yep, yep, that's all in that block.
Mm-hmm.
And that was across the railroad from us.
What do you remember about the Wallaces?
Wallace's?
Yeah.
Well, there was Mrs. Wallace, Mr. Wallace, he was a Geister. Ruth Wallace. Colin Geister married Ruth Wallace. And Teddy, what was his right name?
Theodore.
Theodore. And
Is he the one the park is named after?
Yes.
Okay.
then I think there was a younger one.
Well, Ted is the one that knew about the electricity for the village and the water system and all that. Am I correct?
Yeah, I think
That
so.
was his job.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Then did he have brothers that also did that, or kids? Sons?
You said Theodore was that one that did
I
that?
think so, yeah. Ted.
Okay. Did he have? Well, I
I
don't
never heard
know.
anything about his wife. I don't know who she was.
No, that must have been after I left because
Oh, okay.
I didn't know he married. I didn't know
Ruth
Teddy.
was
We called him.
Was his sister then?
Right,
Okay.
Ruth Wallace. There was Teddy. What was his? He had a brother, a younger brother, but I can't remember his name. But yes, it probably was so much that happened after I left.
Yeah.
Like this building around here. Arlen took us for, we went all around last night. Boy, there was so much that I had never seen.
Oh, well, a lot has changed, hasn't it?
Oh, yes. Oh, I should say so.
That's why it's important for us to find out what you remember, because you remember back into the 20s, what it was like. Now, in the 20s, that was the lowest population in Roscommon.
It was?
Yes, the population, I believe in the 1920s was the lowest.
Oh,
That census was lower. There had been more people earlier. And then as tourism became more prevalent, then the population picked up again. But when I interviewed Salome Shepherd, she was the first person I did. She was
Yeah.
98 when I interviewed her.
98? She was 104 when she died.
Yeah, so we had a nice friendship for those 6 years. I really enjoyed her.
Yeah.
But anyway, I asked her about the effects of the Depression on Roscommon, and she said there was no effect. she said the area was so depressed, and people were just, hard scrabble is the word they use a lot, I guess, that she said it really didn't have that much of an impact on our local area because the area was already, people were already so hard, working so hard to just maintain themselves, that she said, oh, it didn't really have an effect on us. So that was interesting.
Well, I'll tell you, I was working at Saginaw in the A&P store at that time.
At
And-
what time?
Huh?
Depression.
Well, during the Depression.
Oh, the 30s.
And it was very hard to get some things to eat here. Because, like coffee, sugar, laundry soap. And because how I know is when I worked for Kroger's at that time, and the boss would say, now, when a shipment would come in, they'd say, now, you are first, his help.
Oh, okay.
All of us were first to pick out what we wanted. And I would pick out what I thought my folks needed, and then I'd take it to them when I come up.
They still
So
have-
it wasn't too, I mean, at times it wasn't too easy.
That was during World War II? That was rationed?
It was rationed, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so that was after the Depression years then? That was during the rationing?
Oh, that was
of World War
during the
II.
rationing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
World War II.
yeah, that was it.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Do you?
Oh, yeah, I remember the burning.
You guys remember a lot.
Yeah,
I can
remember bringing that.
I can remember when I was a little girl, my grandma, I grew up next door to my grandma. And after my dad
Your
was-
Grandma Green.
My Grandma Green.
Mhm.
And after my dad was killed in the war, my mother needed to work to raise us kids.
Mhm.
And so, of course, she had a job that I remember, she'd go to work after we'd have our supper at night, and she'd come home like 2 o'clock in the morning, and she'd always be there when we got up to go to school, and she was always there when we come home from school. But when she couldn't be there, Grandma was always right next door, and she'd help her out.
What kind of work did she do, Sharon?
She worked at the Colonial Hotel, and she ran that Colonial Hotel for Woody Lockery for years.
Oh.
She ran the bar part, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So she'd go in at night
The evening.
and work all night until 2 in the morning or whatever time the bars closed. And that's what she did. And we lived right next door to Grandma. But when I was real little, I can remember in the fall of the year that Grandma used to take in hunters. She had a 2-story house and the upstairs was bedrooms. And then Grandma and Grandpa had a bedroom downstairs in the back of the house. And I can remember her taking in hunters and renting rooms to hunters in the fall. Isn't that right?
Yeah.
Yep,
So that was in the 40s during the war,
Yeah.
too.
yep. I was really little, but I can remember them.
They come from Detroit.
That's when you could bring people into your home, strangers, but
Yeah.
she'd have the same ones that would come back year after year,
Uh-huh.
and stay there and hunt.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That was a common thing then, huh?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, is there anything else that you think you would like to share with us? It's hard to say, isn't it?
Yeah, I just
Well, we
can't think.
covered your,
You'd almost need to ask her questions
Yeah,
about family. or
I'm trying
something,
to-
because she really knows people,
yeah, trying to,
you know, as a person.
so the Rutledges lived next to you before you moved down the street.
The Rutledges lived right there there was McCready's store.
What do you remember?
You mean Bruce Rutledge
Yeah.
and McCready's store, and then that rented place where we used to live and Rutledge's was next. And then there
So were
was
Blaine and Stewart,
Blaine and Stewart.
were they the same age?
Oh, I'll tell you something. For a long, long time, Blaine played with dolls.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes. Oh, this shouldn't be on there. And, one Christmas, why, he'd always come down, because we lived down there across the creek, you know, and he'd get a new doll, and he'd have it all wrapped up, you know, and he'd have it in his arms. And this one particular time, my mother laughed. He said, "Well, here I come with my precious bundle." Yeah, and he played with dolls for a long time.
Uh-huh,
His father had quite a time to talk him out of it.
uh-huh.
But
father
but
probably
he was
wasn't too
just
happy.
as nice to play with, you know.
Well, sure.
I always had probably a new doll at Christmas, and we'd play together for hours.
Neat. What do you remember about your Christmases? What was Christmas like? Did you always have a tree?
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
We pulled taffy as kids. Grandma we'd always go to Grandma's on Christmas Eve and pull taffy, remember? The taffy pulls that we'd have.
What
Yeah.
did you say, Sharon?
On Christmas Eve, we'd go to Grandma's and pull taffy. Every Christmas Eve, we'd
Oh,
pull taffy,
yeah.
remember?
Yeah,
I remember that.
yeah.
And I know my dad and Stuart Rutledge were good friends growing up.
Oh yes, I have their pictures, AJ and Stuart, on the Red Bridge down there. One of them.
I think that we've seen that picture. I think you shared that one with us. I think we used it in one of our calendars
Oh.
one year, I think.
And did you know also that the house that Aunt Evelyn was born in, that's where the McConkeys lived? Did
Yeah.
you know that?
When
Yeah.
Donna-
Yes, the one
When
between
Donna was-
McCready's and Rutledge's.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, you did know that.
Yeah.
And then
Too bad they tore that down.
a lawyer lived there, Hiram Smith.
Before your family or after?
No, after,
After.
because I remember Hiram Smith and his wife. Seems like he married a Richardson, but I'm not sure about that. And they had two children, a boy and a girl. Harold Smith. Yeah, Harold. I can't think of the girl's name. But one day, Harold was just about, probably around 7 years old. He decided to skip school. And of course, the railroad track ran right between the town, you know. And Harold, the train was on the track and stopped.
Oh.
So Harold wanted to fool around. He was just a young kid. And he got between the two cars, and he wanted to get on the other side. And just as he was standing up there, hanging on, trying to get on the other side, the train started up. Well, he went down and was killed.
Oh, gee, how terrible.
Yep, Harold Smith.
Oh, my gosh.
Remember, Mom,